Hello, welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host Ed Charbeneau, and my co-host is with me, John Bristowe. How you doing, John?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So today is our usual tech news show, where we give our expert opinions on things we may or
Expert.
may not have expertise about,
Hmm.
and that's what
That's
makes
right.
the show interesting and fun. Because sometimes our chat comes in and they've got some hot takes as well.
Sure.
So let's see what we've got today. The S bomb frenzy is premature.
Yeah.
What's
So
this?
SBOMs. Yeah. So SBOM stands for Software Bill of Materials, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
something. Yeah. So basically, what happens is when you generate a build, and when you distribute a package, there is a whole bunch of metadata artifacts that can get generated as part of that process. One of which can be a software bill of materials. So the idea is that um, it can be difficult to understand how a package came to be. And in order to
Mm-hmm.
understand some aspects of that, a software bill of materials goes into the basically it's all about software supply chains, et cetera, and describing the components, the basic dependencies that went into creating an artifact. So an artifact is like a DLL, an executable, etc., an application, etc., or even a library. And so it's kind of like saying like I went people you put down a pie on the table like, hey, this is apple pie. What went into it? Oh, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of apple, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So the ingredients that go into a piece of software is what canonically is known as a software bill of materials. So this is an article that talks a little bit about some things that have been happening. So to understand it, you need to provide some context. So last year, President Biden's uh, team, the White House, published an executive order 14028, where they basically had a section of that describing what's called the Securing Open Source Software Act of 2022. And to a large extent, this really picked up a lot of chatter online because it basically talked about how there were necessities for securing supplies, the software supply side, the chain of things that go into building software. Basically, the
Mm-hmm.
reason why this is important is because as governments and you know um, other agencies take more and more dependencies on software, it's important to secure the things. So things like solar winds, etc. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a bit. Everyone knows the context around solar winds, etc. But basically, this act went into that notion. Anyway, this is an article that talks about how um, basically it's this doesn't mean like the job is done or that we're going to computer science our way through this and that everything's going to be secure from now on. In fact, there's a lot of challenges with dependency management. As folks typically know, dependency management can be challenging at the best of times, but this article goes into a very detailed explanation of some of the challenges that we need to overcome in order for a lot of these things to come to fruition. And so people naturally gravitate towards S bombs as like, hey, this is the solution that will cure everything. It's like, no, it's part of the solution, but there's a lot of other things that go into this. And so rather than boring people with the details, you can read Mark's article here and talks about some of the challenges we face on the technical side as well as the non-technical side. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting article and it's worth reading.
Awesome.
Yeah. That was exactly the reaction I was expecting from you.
I'm familiar with bills and materials and like manufacturing.
Yes.
Trying to think how this gets created and applied to software. Like I can kind of get a gist of it, but it's a little bit more complex with things that are abstract rather than a physical thing that you're building.
Yeah, fair enough.
So there's a little bit of it at the end here where it's talking about like hot patching and automatic updates and things like that. Because
Hmm.
generally with goods that you create, physical goods you create, there's not a version that's changing unless it's got an EEPROM or something on it. It's maybe an electronic device, but any manufactured item has a bill of materials usually, and
Yes.
those things are usually static. Once the thing is created, it's there. It's not updated in real time like software can be.
Yes. Yes. So, anyways, something worth reading about.
Yeah. Warp, the terminal for the 21st century. Do we need another terminal?
Why not? Come on, why not? So yeah, this one caught my attention last week. I hadn't heard about this, but this is a new command line interface built in Rust,
Mm-hmm.
and its approach is basically to it's very much like a VS Code approach for building out a terminal. I do like some of the concepts that they articulate in the demo. They have this notion of blocks. They have the ability to do inline editing of uh, command line commands. They have a rich history built in. It is based on obviously this notion of a text editor, so you can do some really clever things. And yeah, definitely something like I think the tagline they have is input that feels like a code editor. So writing code in your terminal shouldn't feel like 1978. Edit your commands like a modern code editor with selections, cursor position, completion menus, etc. There is some nice features to this as well. So it has the ability to do command line searching. It has the ability of supplementing flags. So if you start typing a command, it knows the metadata story around those commands. It will provide IntelliSense around commands, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
these and other things are kind of nice, and all the other things that go into it. So yes, yes, we probably do need another terminal. So
Yeah, I agree. This looks really promising. One big negative here, though. It looks like it's only available for Apple,
yes, that is correct.
and that's not great.
Well, to be fair, it is based on Rust, and so there are some there are some challenges to overcome. But they've started with the Mac, and I believe they're planning to add support for web, Linux, and Windows.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to target the web via WASM, so WebAssembly, and then they'll move on to Linux and then Windows. And the time frame for this is um, I think they've got a. I don't know what their time frame is, but I think that they're looking to build these things out pretty quickly. So yeah,
Yeah, it looks like they've got a pricing model coming along with this too. So some of the features will be free. Then they've got like enterprise style features that are going to be paid, which is unique. I don't think I've seen a terminal with a paid tier yet. I'm not
well, there's
knocking it either. I'm just saying
no,
it's
I know.
unique.
Yeah, as I said, there are capabilities they built into the terminal around searching and AI. They call it AI searching, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just basically embedded search, things like that. Collaboration capabilities. That's why they're going to charge for that. So
Yeah, shared configurations is pretty cool. Real-time
mhm.
terminal sharing you can do with Visual
Yes,
Studio
yes,
Code and Visual Studio right now. So that one's interesting that it's on the paid tier when that's kind of
and
freely
they're going after
available.
Jupyter as well.
Shared
Juniper,
terminal
sorry. Yeah.
notebooks. Looks like a lot of collaborative, like pair programming stuff, which I think is neat. And then I don't know what any of this means, so I'm not going to comment. I don't know what advanced team deployment integration with internal tools means, but more power to them if they find a niche and they can make some money doing it.
Yeah, Jupyter Notebooks has that same capability, this notion of writing inline terminal commands, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Super powerful, based on Python. It looks like they're going after the same sort of aspect there.
And then speaking of Rust, where did this go? Did I accidentally close? I think I accidentally closed the article. Let me go grab it again.
No worries.
Um,
So
so Linux
this is the Linux
is getting
6
ready.
kernel.
Yeah,
Yes.
ready to drop 6.0. And here we go. So I was going to talk about that, and somehow it got knocked off the list.
Hmm.
So Linux kernel 6.0, enhanced security, runtime verification, improves CPU efficiency. And then one of the other things that I was looking at in here was Rust is coming in the minor release, so 6.1. Looks like an engineer over at Microsoft has put in a request that will enable Linux support out of the box, or
Was that Mark
Rust
Russinovich who
support
did
out of the
that?
box. No, it says Keys Cook.
Okay.
Don't know who he is exactly, but it looks like there was a request made to include like the SDKs, some of the build tools, and crates that help you build applications for Linux. So you can just,
Right.
as soon as you get Linux, just start working on Rust apps without having to download a bunch of dependencies. I'm trying to think, is it Ruby? Ruby, I think, has some support out of the box as well. Or maybe it's Python. There's some things that are already on Linux that you don't need
Oh,
to.
you mean just? Oh, yeah, yeah. So there's a
Yeah, that are
variety of
distributed
tools,
with it.
and yeah, you can download. It depends on the distro. It depends on the tools you're talking about, like GCC, for example, ships. But there are other tools as well. You have to download as side packages, etc. I don't know if Python and Ruby. There's like a REPL for Ruby that I don't know if they include that. To be honest, I don't think they do. I'd be surprised if they do, to be honest. So
I remember Ruby being easier on Linux for some reason or another.
fair enough. Yep.
But anyhow, you can look at the actual support or the ticket for this. And the things that were requested was key internals, build infrastructure for
Yep. Yep.
Rust builds and scripts, creates for binding initial minimum viable build. So like
Yeah. So you can just get started. Yeah. You don't
yeah,
have to download the world. Yeah.
like the core lib crates,
Yep.
whatever that equivalent is. I'm speaking kind of .NET-y terms there. And then the kernel documentation and samples. So stuff
Gotcha.
that gets you just up and running with Rust.
So
So
what this
that's
points to is the fact that Rust is quickly becoming mainstream.
yes.
And I think it bears a discussion about your organization's evaluation of Rust as a potential environment, language, etc.
Yeah.
To target. And I think that there's a lot of positive things to know about Rust. It will take you towards a TypeScript, a very strong type system, kicking and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
You will be quite secure. So if you have a component or part of your system that is possibly handling network requests or inputs, etc., and you want to segment that off and make it secure and trusted, etc., maybe Rust is a viable language for you.
Yeah. This is with this being the Google Linux kernel developer submitting this request. That's Google backing Rust. Last week we had Mark
Mark Russinovich
Russinovich
backed it, yes,
backing it
from
for
Microsoft,
Azure. Yeah,
yes.
CTO of Azure. I mean, those are some pretty big players.
And there's a number of application vendors who have started taking dependencies on Rust. I can think of 1Password as an example. Builds a lot of their components on Rust. There are other ones as well that I've seen cited. It's not like everyone takes it whole hog, but there are certain aspects of their solution where they take a dependency on Rust.
Cool. Yeah, I was talking to you before the show. Maybe we have to come up with a special edition of the show to
A
do a
Rust show?
little Rust dabbling.
Sure.
Programming languages. Java 19 arrives. Here's what's new. John, you're gonna have to take it from here. I don't know anything about Java anymore.
Well, I know that it runs on billions and billions of devices, right? As the installer says.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so
this is
Java,
what Salesforce like. I don't know if their core is built on this, but all their SDK stuff is Java. So at least it
yeah,
was.
it just screams insecurity when you have an installer that says, how many devices run Java, right? It's like the billions and billions of hamburgers sold by McDonald's. It's like, all right, I get it. I'll download it. I'll uninstall it. Leave me alone. So Java 19 is now out. And the SDK is available for developers targeting it. This comes in a variety of flavors, obviously. There's the Oracle Blessed version, and then there's the OpenJDK version. As far as new features are concerned, I haven't really seen too many things that grabs my attention. There is various new technical features. Java 19 includes 7 JDK enhancement support proposals, or JEPs. So if you jump to the OpenJDK page, it lists about things like virtual threads, vector API, structured concurrency, record patterns. Some of these sound familiar if you're a .NET developer, for example. Some of these sound a bit kind of esoteric. Virtual threads, I have no idea what that is. That's a new one for me. They're lightweight threads that dramatically reduce the effort of writing, maintaining, and observing high throughput concurrent applications. All right, fair enough. So anyways, stuff to check out. Rather than reading the README, here's the link. Go check it out.
Some stuff about working with NASA RISC-V chips as well. So something NASA wants to use for its next generation space flight computers.
What is it that, what was the hot topic? When the James Webb Space Telescope launched, they said it runs JavaScript, I think, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that, but developers like to get really excited about these things. So yeah. The space telescope that just went up, that big thing, I believe that people were saying that it runs JavaScript apparently. So
yeah, I don't know about that. I have to find the source for that before I believe it.
It's on The Verge. So it says, yeah, there's a JavaScript engine writing in the flight software, apparently.
Interesting.
So there you go. Yes, JavaScript is now everywhere, including space. Well, outer space.
Is it in the clouds?
Sure, why not?
This is a cloud native landscape guide.
Yeah, this has been around for a bit. This hit my attention just last week because I noticed that our logo was out of date. But for those who don't know, the CNCF stands for the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and they key off, and they're an organizing foundation that has a number of projects under its umbrella. Some of the more notable ones that include are things like, Jaeger for tracing, Helm for describing, charts for Kubernetes, Open Policy Agent, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a number of projects that fall under this umbrella. And this is a landscape page that they have that if you don't break your browser, basically what this does is it basically talks about all of the technology and all of the companies building on for cloud native solutions. And so you can, this has been around for a while, but it's just an interesting page to kind of remind folks that, hey, there's a lot of stuff out there if you're targeting Kubernetes or you're doing things around tracing and logging and observability, or you're wanting to do things with containers or cloud storage or yada, yada, yada. So there's lots of stuff to check out there. Octopus Deploy is listed there, for example. So we're a member of the CNCF, so around deployment, etc. So yeah, just thought people would like to know that there's a site out there that can help people navigate this landscape, and it also scrolls left to right as well, which is crazy.
Oh, I felt like I was missing something here.
Yeah. So quite a clever page, if you ask me. Yeah, a lot of work went into this.
It's a lot of data to try to consolidate into one view.
Yes.
It's like a LCAR's dashboard or something. Jeez.
Yes.
Very cool. I like it as different ways to tackle it too. We even have a WASM page here.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Container security site.
Yeah, so containers are all the rage, obviously, for folks who are targeting Kubernetes. They need planet scale, yada, yada, yada. So Obviously, when you push these things into production, it's very important that you have to make sure that the containers and images that you're using within Kubernetes are super they're super well, they're hardened well, that they follow good practices and guidance. And what this site does is it basically talks about a whole host of things that are best practice, things that you should watch out for, and it summarizes them into sort of a collection of links. And there's a whole variety of ways in which you can look at this. So definitely worth checking out, which is at containersecurity.site. Includes CVEs, includes reading, includes security research, all kinds of things. So if you're doing anything with containers, if you're doing anything with Docker, doing anything with Kubernetes, doing anything of that ilk, check this out. Definitely worth taking a look.
And I brought this article up. It's an article by a friend of mine that works over at JetBrains. Khalid over at JetBrains wrote about compression in .NET.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some things in system.io.compression. And then he goes into like the trade-offs between different types of compression algorithms that are available there. There's two inside of the system.io namespace as of .NET 5, he says. There's gzip and Brotli compression, which the Microsoft teams had really good headway with the Brotli compression. They've gotten quite good compression out of it. So this is in .NET 5 and above, and you can use this library as part of .NET and compress your own, or do your own compression. And he goes over how to do that in detail. So I thought this was pretty cool. And we've also got some of the outputs here as well. So let's say he's getting, with gzip, getting really good compression compared to Brotli on just strings, but there's different uses and different types of file. Use this on byte arrays and whatnot as well. You might get different results depending on what it is you're compressing. So it looks like the Brotli optimal path for whatever he's doing here looks like it got to be the highest. But again, there's the trade-off, fast versus optimal. You're trading off speed for more compression. It's a pretty good detailed article here if you want to check that out. It's up on his website. He blogs quite frequently. There's always good stuff there.
Cool.
This was an incremental announcement for the .NET Maui Community Toolkit. So there's a new version of that out. The .NET Community Toolkit is like a batch of library in like helpers for .NET Maui. This kind of is a predecessor to the Xamarin Community Toolkit. And they did a lot of restructuring early on with this. So they kind of restructured a lot of the APIs and things that are in here. But they're adding stuff to it still. So there's new status bar helpers, Gravatar image source, fade animations, and lots of bug fixes, it says. But this is definitely a project to watch out for if you're doing any kind of Maui development.
100%.
There's a lot of goodies in here. That's going to save you a lot of time. This is like a kind of like a kitchen sink of things that the developer community for Xamarin put together, and then this migrated over to Maui now.
Community Toolkit is always awesome because it is a fast vehicle for shipping things that may not find its way into the foundational stuff. So the Xamarin Toolkit was awesome for this because you could get some things that may have not been foundational to Xamarin, or XAML rather, excuse me. But with Maui, obviously there are going to be some edge cases where maybe not suitable for the foundational stuff around Maui, but certainly applicable for a toolkit that can ship fast and often.
Yeah, I was trying to find the actual web page for it, and I'm having a hard time.
I think it's linked on the top right.
Is it on the top right?
If you scroll to the top right. Keep going.
There
There.
we go.
Bang.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. So you can see all the stuff that it supports right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a lot of stuff in converters.
Converters.
I
Yep.
think we
Yep.
talked about this before. So these are really cool because it does like color converters, integers to colors, strings to colors, all of that stuff. It's like all these little edge case things that you're gonna run into eventually, but they might not be like core features that need to be baked into the framework or the language. So there's lots of stuff in here that's just going to make your life easier. So check it out if you get time, if you're
Nice.
a Maui developer, at least bookmark it, because you're gonna want to solve one of these problems one day, and then you could just come in here and jump into search and go, oh, this is already a solved problem. I don't have to go write specific code for this. So that's pretty nice.
Awesome.
This is a kind of a UI UX article that I found. This one is talking about testing pixel perfection in Figma and code. And this is a common problem where you're trying to work with designers, developers, and make things pixel perfect. This is like,
good luck.
it's always been the struggle of the web, right?
Yeah.
So there's still a little bit of a gap, and this is something that we're trying to tackle at Progress. We've got some tools that are in the pipeline that are kind of aligning with this concept here. So I thought I'd share this. I like some of the ideas that are talked about in here too. In reality, we often write pixel pretty close. So
Yeah.
we get pretty close to what it looks like, but not, actual pixel perfection.
Yeah,
So this
that's
talks
fair.
about a manual way of like getting your Figma kit to sync
Designs.
up with some other tooling that make it easy for you to compare the output of your code versus the Figma samples that you've created. So this gives you like comparison tools that you can do like side by side or top to bottom comparisons, and like there's a nice UI that comes along with these tools, so you can kind of compare these things and overlap them. This is a really good example here. Like the close button is off ever so slightly, so you can go into your code there and kind of tweak it. So these are plugins and tools that you can get that can help you along with this Figma testing library, so to speak. So really cool if you're in that space. I know that we've got some folks like Catherine working on this type of stuff, and we have some tooling coming to the ThemeBuilder Pro, which shipped. Probably should actually share that. So we just launched a new product. I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, John. Did I?
No.
So we have a new product. ThemeBuilder probably from your time with Kendo UI.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get any of these, we should be able to get to it. Let's see if we fixed our. There we go. We fixed our link. We had a broken link this morning. If we go to our any of our libraries and we click on ThemeBuilder, you remember ThemeBuilder, John? We used to go in and immediately just start building a theme. Now we have a login. And this is helpful because before there was no login, so it was kind of anonymous. You could come on here and build a theme, but there was no catalog of your activity before. So you didn't have saved projects. Now you can come in here and actually create projects and save them to the cloud. So you can come back and modify that project later. And then along with this ThemeBuilder application, there is something called ThemeBuilder Pro. If you look at the UI here, you've got this advanced edit tab now. This is something that we didn't have before. And this comes with a pro version of it, and it's licensed separately so your designers can get access to this and not have to have all the UI components and everything installed on their system. They can just come in here and work. But you can go into advanced edit and click on a group of, say, buttons, and look at this canvas that you've got to work with. You can zoom in, and then you can edit the details of these items granularly.
Mm.
So you can come in and click on, I've got the hover state of the button, and when it has an icon set, I can go in and modify all of the attributes or properties of that icon, such as like the font size, padding, margin, layout, all of those things. And this gets saved to either SAS or CSS, depending on what you like. You export, you get all the files for both, and your designers can come in here and work with this, and you get a live preview down here. We can also pop this guy out, so
Mm.
you get this live preview of what you're working on. You can come in and create brand new SAS variables, all sorts of things,
Love it.
inside of a UI. And there are some features in the works with this and possibly some Figma. So keep your eye on this space.
Okay.
We're definitely trying to break some new ground here. It's pretty cool stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is our brand new baby. We just released this in the last quarter here.
Cool.
Yeah, there's some really welcome features. You can share those designs with your team as well. So there's like collaborative stuff in there, which is also something we didn't have in ThemeBuilder before. Again, it was kind of anonymous before. Like you just kind of go on the site and build the theme
Yep.
and download it, and then
Yep.
once it was downloaded, you couldn't go back and really re-edit that theme. You had to start over again. Now you can save it to the cloud. You can share it with your team. Teammates can go in there and help make changes or give approvals, stuff like that. So yeah, we're getting to kind of the same ballpark as what's going on with this Figma testing stuff. And then last
Cool.
but not least, I wanted to chat with you about this, John, because I know
Yeah, sure.
how much you love this type of tech, and I think we're going to be on the same page when we talk about this one. The Tesla bot,
Yes.
Tesla's AI Day. I thought this was kind of comedy more than reality. Of course, we got to have a 30-second ad there. But Tesla revealed this prototype of a robot and dubbed Optimus. I love how they just poach our nostalgic names of things and make those brand names. I'm sure the folks that own the IP for Transformers are really fond of this. But yeah, the article's not giving it too much credit either. It says it stiffly walked on stage, waved slowly, etc. And then it says Boston Dynamics have been doing backflips and performing sophisticated dance routines without a tether for
Yeah.
years. Like this,
Yeah.
this is really not great. Here we go. This was really, it will not show this full screen because of their ad. That's lovely. It all started with this ridiculous thing where they put somebody in a suit. I don't know if you saw that. And this was, I guess when they first announced it, they put some guy in a leotard and put a helmet on him, and they're like, this is a Tesla bot. And I don't know if they're going for comedy here or what. But yeah, this is just ridiculous. And then they have their tethered robot, and then they've got examples of it carrying a package very slowly through an office. I'm genuinely just not impressed. I'm sorry. It's just not impressed at all. Just because we've seen this stuff long ago with Honda. Honda's had humanoid robots that can move packages and things without tethers for years. Things like 10 years old now. What's the name of the Honda robot? Do you remember offhand, John?
The Ibo or something like that. That was the
Shoot.
dog pet, wasn't it?
No, they have a humanoid one. Osimo. Yeah, this one. I mean, this thing is
It's not
this.
Osimo. Osimo is the fake robot that Cartman made in South Park to make friends with Butters. I am Asimo.
So I mean, this is back in 2000. Like, this has been done. So I'm gonna remain skeptical as I do of any Tesla products of any kind.
When I was a kid, I had the Omnibot 3000, and I thought that
The
was awesome.
Omnibot 3000.
Yes. Yeah, I don't. I understand his motivation, Elon's motivation for wanting to push this. I think it was a bit embarrassing. I think until you're at the standard, you've got to stop doing this. This is conference-driven development to a T.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, they brought this thing out carried by the stage hands, and then they're like, "All right, is it steady? All right, go ahead and hit start," sort of thing. And I think it's more of an embarrassment than anything. I think Boston Dynamics is just laughing. Like I would imagine this made the rounds at Boston Dynamics, and people were just crying, laughing at how bad this thing looked.
I'm sure you're
That
right.
being said, knowing how technology evolves and knowing that this is a hardware and software problem, chances are this will get far, far, far better pretty soon. And so I would imagine that you'll probably see this take off within its, what are they called, giga complexes at Tesla, for example, for assembling cars. I think that's all fine, whatever, sort of thing. I don't know. The practical applications for this in everyday life are going to be way, way down the line, I think. I can't see this really taking off for, not because of the capability. The capability is there. It can lift things, it can move, etc. But just around the practicalities of how do you power this thing? Like you need, like I've always said, battery technology needs to come a long, long way before all these new machines, these VR. I want to see a VR goggles on this thing, see how it does.
It needs the mouth cover.
Right, running Doom. So I think this is just a confluence of technologies coming together. I think we're way, way, way away from making this a reality in everyday life. You're not going to see this on the street anytime soon. So I wouldn't worry.
I always get surprised by like these humanoid style designs. They're always, I don't know, like they seem so inefficient. Like humans are good at, we're like jack of all trades, master of none. And when you have robots that are geared towards specific tasks, they generally do very well. So
Mm-hmm.
watching this goofy looking thing carry a package doesn't impress me, because if you've looked at an
Well,
automated warehouse, like you've
yeah,
seen robots that are built to, they're unitaskers, but they're built to carry packages with efficiency
yeah.
through a warehouse. They
I
look
think,
nothing like a human.
yeah,
They look basically like a pallet jack, but they're completely autonomous.
yeah. I think the whole reason for this is because um, I think folks know that like people don't want to do work like this. They don't want to do menial tasks like this. So it's getting harder and harder to hire people who want to do this type of work, for example. And I think also there's a growing consensus among tech bros. I think that we're in a depopulation state because of our we're what's the birth rate now? It's like far less than the replacement rate is far less than what it needs to be in order to have folks in line to do these things. And I don't think people want to spend their 30 years of working life, whatever it is, 40 years of working life sorting packages, I would imagine. So they're probably trying to tackle this problem from that perspective. I think where it gets scary is when people see the other applications relative to all day life, everyday life. Are you going to see these on Main Street, for example, walking up and down the street? Is this a Will Smith iRobot sort of reality that's going to come to fruition? Not anytime soon. And it's not because the technology isn't there. The technology is certainly there. It's because powering and maintaining these things. I mean, think about it. If you had these things, let's assume that the power thing got sorted out. You get the whole notion of, is society going to accept these things? I don't think so. I
Mm-hmm.
think people are going to be screwing around with these things, like they're going to be kicking them over and I know how kids are. I've got two. They're going to be messing around with these things, like spray painting them. Like, these things are not going to be accepted by the wider society for a very, very, very long time. And so you've got two fundamental issues at play. You've got the ability to power these things, and you've got society acceptance. And I don't think you're going to see these on Main Street. You're going to see these within factories. That's it.
I mean, who doesn't want the dancing robot, John?
These things are really loud too. Like this thing
Oh
is like
yeah, they are.
whining, like they're
I've got it
screaming,
muted.
whining. Yeah. So like they're just like, sort of thing. It's like, okay, thanks. We don't need this thing here. So
Yeah, those servo motors. It's just like
yes,
loud as hell.
yes,
Powerful ones too. If it can throw this thing into a backflip.
yes.
So this is the
They're
Boston
super loud.
Dynamics
I mean, look at
robot,
the
and
fans on those things. Those things are not quiet. So
then we get the creepy dog version.
well, those things are practical for like military
Yeah,
applications. So they're for medical distribution in a war zone or bomb disposal. Super
yeah.
powerful, super awesome. Makes sense.
They're good at carrying packages too. Like I said, like seeing the upright like humanoid versions of them is just kind of wonky. Like these things can be more efficient if they're just designed for specific tasks rather than
Sure.
to look like us.
Oh my
And
God.
I don't know what that was. That one's
A dinosaur.
yeah. That one looks like
Wow.
it's some kind of manufacturing style robot. Usually they're not on wheels; they're just an arm, which those have been around for decades. Just the arm based ones that they train. Like they've already automated, like GM and all of them. GM, Honda, all of that. They've automated their assembly lines with these robot arms. Like they do just fine. Instead of carrying things through, I mean everything's on a conveyor belt, and then the arms are at stations where they do their work. A little bit more practical than the thing moving around on its own. So yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. I'm
meh.
reminded of the Jurassic. Reminded of the Jurassic Park quote, where what's his name's character asks the question. You were so busy wondering whether your scientists were so busy wondering whether they didn't stop to ask whether they should. And I don't know if
Yeah,
this will this will be accepted by wider society. But call me a curmudgeon, whatever. I mean, yeah,
I mean I'm
whatever.
putting this one in the bucket of Tesla trucks, semi trucks, tunnels.
Cybertruck,
Yeah,
boring.
Cybertruck. No, not even Cybertruck. They had I mean, the Cybertruck's meh with its indestructible windows that got broken.
Hmm.
And but there were promised semi trucks as well. So 18
Okay.
wheeler tractor trailers
Oh,
never
the self-driving trucks. Yeah.
never came. And the tunnels, the hyperloop
Boring.
tunnels that are pretty much impossible to build because you can't put something that large under a vacuum. Uh, the laundry list of things that is promised by Elon that never sees the light of day or ends up being a public beta at best. The
I
Tesla
will say this.
cars are like the most unreliable cars on the market.
Yeah. Well, okay. Um, I would say
They
that
are.
I know. I think it's easy for us to mock and make fun, especially in this case. I just think that there are societal factors at play here that are going to make it really, really difficult for folks to, accept. So,
Sorry, I said the most unreliable. They're the second most unreliable car on the market as of 2021. So, yeah, there's that. Um, you know, being second to worst isn't a great title, but everybody can celebrate the Musk cult as much as they want.
all right.
Just the facts are out there. This stuff
Okay.
doesn't do great. And
Okay.
here, from the makers of not so great cars, here's a goofy robot that's also not so great.
Fair
That's
enough.
my hot take.
Fair enough.
All right, John. I'll leave it at that before all the Musk fans start sending me hate mail. And if you want to send me hate mail, it's johnbristow at gmail.com.
Perfect.
Or
That's not even it. So
my
please feel
second
free to.
address is sambasu@progress.com. So if you want to
Nice.
send me any hate mail, just make sure you send it that way, and I'll make sure I get it and respond. That's all I've got for a show today, John.
Perfect.
Thanks
Yes.
for joining me as usual. And we'll see you all soon.